Your child is exhausted. You can see it. Their eyes are glassy. Their movements are slow. Their whole body is practically begging for sleep. And yet, the moment you say it's bedtime, something changes. They suddenly need water. They have one more question. They want to tell you about a dream they had 3 weeks ago. They will do anything, absolutely anything, to avoid closing their eyes. You have tried everything. Earlier bedtimes, bedtime routines, warm baths and dim lights, and the exact same lullaby every night for 6 months. And still, your child fights sleep like it is the enemy. You assume it is a phase, a behavioral problem, a battle of wills. But the real answer is far stranger than that. Your child is not being difficult on purpose. Their brain is doing something deeply ancient, profoundly wired, and completely out of their control. And once you understand what is actually happening inside that small tired skull, the whole battle starts to look completely different. Here is where it starts. Sleep is not natural for the brain of a young child. Not in the way we assume. You think of sleep as rest, as safety, as the most peaceful thing a body can do. But your child's brain does not see it that way. To a developing nervous system, sleep means something else entirely. It means disconnection. It means the loss of stimulation, of control, of the people they love most. And for a brain that is still learning what the world is, that is not peace. That is threat. Neuroscientist Matthew Walker, who spent decades studying sleep at UC Berkeley, describes the relationship between fear and sleep as one of the most underappreciated tensions in human development. The same brain circuits that keep children alert to danger are the ones sleep has to override. And in young children, those circuits are not just active. They are dominant. They run the show. Think about what childhood actually is. For most of human history, a child left alone in the dark was a child in serious danger. Predators, cold, separation from the group, these were not abstract fears. They were real, daily, lethal possibilities. Your child's ancestors who fell asleep easily, who surrendered consciousness without a fight, may not have survived long enough to pass their genes forward. The ones who stayed alert, who cried out, who resisted sleep until they were certain they were safe and surrounded by their people, those were the ones who made it. That vigilance is not a flaw. It is a feature that kept your child's bloodline alive for 100,000 years. And now that same feature is making Tuesday night a nightmare. But it goes deeper than ancient survival instinct. A child's brain is not just wary of sleep because of danger. It is wary of sleep because of what sleep costs them in the moment. Psychologist Wendy Troxel, a sleep researcher at the Rand Corporation who has spent years studying childhood sleep behavior, points out that children between the ages of 2 and 8 are in one of the most intense periods of social and cognitive bonding in their entire lives. Every moment they are awake, they are gathering information about you, about their world, about how things work. Sleep interrupts that. Every hour they spend unconscious is an hour they are not with you, not learning, not absorbing the faces and voices and sounds that their brain is desperately trying to map and memorize. For a child, bedtime is not rest. It is separation. And separation at this age activates the same neural pathways as physical pain. That is not a metaphor. Brain imaging studies have shown that social separation in young children triggers the anterior cingulate cortex, the same region that fires when the body experiences physical discomfort. Your child is not being dramatic when they dissolve into tears at bedtime. They're experiencing something that, neurologically, genuinely hurts. Now add something else to this picture. A child's circadian rhythm, the internal biological clock that tells the body when to sleep and when to wake, is not calibrated the same way an adult's is. Research published in the journal Chronobiology International has documented a well-established developmental shift in the timing of melatonin release in children. Melatonin is the hormone that signals the brain that sleep is coming. In adults, it rises sharply in the early evening. In young children, the pattern is different, more irregular, more easily disrupted by light and excitement and stimulation. When you flood the living room with bright overhead light at 7 in the evening, or let your child watch a screen, or have a loud, energetic dinner, you are actively suppressing the very hormone their brain needs to make sleep feel possible. You are fighting their biology before the battle even starts. And then there is cortisol. Cortisol is the stress hormone, the chemical your body releases when it needs to stay alert and mobilized. In children, cortisol levels naturally spike in the late afternoon and early evening, a biological pattern researchers believe evolved to help young animals stay active and close to their caregivers during the most socially complex part of the day. That spike makes your child more alert, not less. More emotionally reactive. More prone to the kind of meltdowns that make bedtime feel like a disaster zone. You see a child who should be winding down. Their body is actually ramping up. Both things are true at the same time. That is not bad parenting. That is biochemistry. Researcher James McKenna, a biological anthropologist at the University of Notre Dame who has spent his career studying infant and child sleep across cultures, makes a point that many Western parents find genuinely uncomfortable. The idea that children should sleep alone in their own room, in complete silence and darkness, from an early age, is not a universal human norm. It is a historically recent, culturally specific expectation. In virtually every other human society across time, children slept near adults, often in the same bed or in the same room, surrounded by the sounds and smells and warmth of their family. The child's nervous system evolved to expect that. It expects proximity. It expects sensory confirmation that the people who protect it are nearby. When that confirmation is absent, the alarm system stays on. This does not mean co-sleeping is the only answer. Families have to make the choices that are safe and sustainable for them. But it does explain something important. When your child keeps calling out for you after lights out, when they need one more hug, when they appear in your doorway at midnight with an elaborate excuse about a noise they heard, they are not manipulating you. They are running a biological security check. They're asking their nervous system a very old question. Are my people here? Are we safe? And until their brain receives an answer that feels convincing, it will not stand down. Understanding this changes the strategy. You stop fighting the instinct and start working with it. Consistent routines matter not because they are rules, but because they teach the nervous system a predictable pattern of safety. When the same sequence of events happens every night at the same time, the brain begins to encode that sequence as a signal. This is what safety feels like. This is what calm feels like. This is the shape of the night before sleep comes. The routine itself becomes the reassurance. Reducing light exposure in the hour before bed matters not as a rule, but because it allows melatonin to rise the way it is designed to. Staying physically close during the transition, sitting in the room, a hand on their back, a voice they recognize, matters not as indulgence, but as direct communication to a nervous system that is still learning to trust the dark. You are not teaching your child to be dependent. You are teaching their ancient, vigilant, beautifully wired brain that the world is safe enough to let go. Because here is the thing. Your child does not fight sleep because they do not want rest. They fight sleep because rest requires trust. And trust, for a brain that is 100,000 years old in a body that is 4 years old, is something that has to be earned, night after night, in the same small, reliable, repeating acts of presence. When the lights finally go out and your child's breathing slows and their body sinks into the mattress, they are not just resting. They are doing something their ancestors could only do when they felt completely, deeply, unmistakably safe. And somehow, without knowing any of this, you helped them get there. That is not a small thing.